The wind was howling like it wanted to rip the town apart. Snow hammered the streets in waves so thick, the world beyond the windshield vanished into white. Streetlights flickered, casting ghostly halos that disappeared as quickly as they appeared. Officer Daniels gripped the wheel tighter. This wasn't a night for anyone to be outside, but duty didn't stop for weather. His patrol car crawled down the empty road, tires crunching against ice, headlights barely cutting through the storm. It felt less like driving through a town and more like navigating through a snow-covered void. Most nights, this route was routine: gas stations, shuttered diners, the same quiet houses. But tonight, every corner seemed hostile, every shadow shifting in the blizzard's chaos. Daniels kept telling himself it was just another shift, nothing unusual, yet something in the silence pressed on him. The storm had a weight, like it was hiding something. His radio crackled, then died into static. He tapped it, frowning. Alone now, with nothing but the storm for company. And that's when the thought hit him. If anyone was stranded out here, they wouldn't last long. He didn't know it yet, but this night wasn't about routine. Somewhere ahead, the storm had trapped more than just snow and silence. And before the night was over, he'd face a choice that would change lives. Through the white blur, something dark shot across the headlights. Daniels slammed the brakes, heart jarring against his chest as the patrol car skidded on ice before grinding to a stop. At first, he thought it was debris blown onto the road. But then it turned, eyes glowing amber in the beams. A German shepherd. The dog stood square in the middle of the lane, chest rising and falling in ragged breaths, fur plastered with snow. Daniels expected it to bolt. Any animal would. Instead, it didn't move. It planted its paws firmly, staring him down as the storm tore past them both. Daniels tapped the horn. The blast echoed flat in the blizzard. The dog didn't flinch. If anything, it edged closer, barking once, sharp, deliberate. The officer's pulse quickened. Strays usually ran from people, not toward them. Something was wrong. Why would a dog risk its life in front of a moving car? He shifted the gear into park, eyes fixed on the animal. The shepherd's tail wasn't tucked in fear. It wasn't lost. It was waiting. Daniels leaned forward, gripping the steering wheel tighter. He had a sinking feeling this wasn't a coincidence. Whatever this dog wanted, it wasn't going to let him drive away. The German shepherd barked again, the sound cutting through the storm like a warning siren. Snow clung to its muzzle, steam rising from its breath. Daniels sat frozen for a second, debating the insanity of it all. Finally, he pushed the door open. The wind punched him in the chest, cold biting straight through his uniform. The dog immediately backed away a few steps, then stopped, eyes fixed on him. Daniel stepped into the snow, boots sinking deep. "Go on," he muttered, half to himself, half to the dog. The shepherd barked once more, turned, and trotted ahead, only a few yards before stopping to glance back. It wasn't random. It was deliberate, like it was asking him to follow. Daniels hesitated, logic screaming at him. He had protocol. He had no backup. The storm was closing in. Every second outside the car meant greater risk. But then he noticed the way the dog pawed the ground, circling back as if refusing to leave him behind. Not frantic, not panicked, purposeful. A gut feeling settled in his chest. Something, or someone, needed him. And if he ignored it now, he might regret it forever. He zipped his coat, pulled his flashlight from the belt, and nodded once, as if sealing his decision. "All right, show me." The shepherd bolted forward into the storm. Daniels followed. Snow stung his face like shards of glass. Daniels hunched forward, following the blur of fur weaving through the storm. Each step crunched deep into the drift, boots sinking, legs straining. The shepherd moved with uncanny certainty, cutting a narrow path through the chaos. Daniels tried to keep the beam of his flashlight steady, but the blizzard swallowed its glow whole, reducing the world to swirling white. His radio hissed with static again. He lifted it to his mouth, calling dispatch, but the storm chewed his voice to pieces. Only silence answered. He shoved it back on his belt. Out here, he was on his own. The thought burned in his chest. He was trusting a dog more than his training, more than his orders. This wasn't procedure, this was instinct. And it terrified him. The shepherd paused suddenly, ears pricked, head tilting toward the darkness ahead. Daniels froze, straining to listen. For a moment, there was only the roar of the wind. Then, something faint. A sound buried beneath the storm. He held his breath. Was it the storm's trick? Or had he just heard it? A muffled cry, distant, fragile, almost lost in the howl? The shepherd barked once, urgent and sharp, before plunging forward again. Daniels followed, heart hammering, every sense screaming that they were closing in on something, or someone. The shepherd stopped so suddenly that Daniels nearly stumbled into it. The dog barked furiously at a mound of snow along the roadside, paws digging and tail whipping side to side. Daniels swung his flashlight over, and his stomach dropped. A car, half buried, only the faint outline of a roof and one shattered headlight peeking out from the snowbank. He scrambled forward, brushing away the crusted snow with his gloves. The glass of the side window was fogged from inside. He wiped it clear with his sleeve, and what he saw nearly froze him more than the storm itself. A child's face. Pale, lips trembling, eyes wide but silent. A little girl, no older than 7. Daniels yanked at the handle. It groaned, stuck under the weight of ice. He shoved harder until it cracked open, snow spilling into the cabin. The bitter cold rushed out, carrying with it the faintest whimper. Inside, the girl clutched the frail arm of an elderly woman slumped in the seat beside her. The grandmother's skin was ashen, her breathing shallow, eyes fluttering. Daniel's pulse spiked. These weren't survivors waiting for help. They were minutes away from being lost. "Hang on," he breathed, voice shaking but firm. "I've got you." The shepherd barked again, circling, almost as if urging him to hurry. Because out here, every second slipping by was another chance the storm would win. Daniels fumbled for his radio, fingers stiff from the cold. He pressed the button hard, shouting into the static. "Unit 12. I've got 2 civilians, 1 unresponsive. I need immediate backup." Only a crackle, then silence. He tried again. Nothing but the storm drowning him out. The girl's small voice cut through the panic. "She's so tired." Her words were a whisper, but they pierced deeper than the wind. She hugged her grandmother's arm tighter, tears freezing on her cheeks. Daniels crouched inside the cramped car, the cold air gnawing at his lungs. He pressed his gloved hand against the old woman's wrist. Faint, too faint. He couldn't wait. Backup might never find them in time. "Hey," he said gently, locking eyes with the girl. "You have to stay awake. Do you hear me? Stay awake." Her head bobbed in a slow nod, though her body trembled violently. The storm outside screamed louder, snow piling against the door, as if trying to bury them alive. Daniels clenched his jaw. He couldn't carry them both, not like this. But leaving them wasn't an option. He glanced at the German shepherd, waiting just beyond the car, snow whipping through its fur. He didn't know how yet, but he would need that dog. Daniel stripped off his heavy coat and wrapped it snugly around the shivering girl. She clung to the warmth, tiny hands gripping the fabric like a lifeline. With a grunt, he shifted to the grandmother. She was frail, limp, her body refusing to help in the effort. Daniel slid his arms under her and heaved, his back screaming as he lifted her out of the frozen car. The shepherd barked sharply, circling in the snow like it understood the urgency. Then it trotted forward a few steps, stopping to glance back, eyes burning through the whiteout as if to say, "Follow me." Daniels staggered forward, the weight of the old woman pressing him down, snow dragging at his boots. The girl clutched his side, her breath shallow and fast. The storm fought them with every step, shoving walls of wind into their faces. The path behind vanished instantly, but the dog pressed on, weaving a line through the blizzard that Daniels never could have found on his own. For the first time that night, he wasn't relying on training. He was relying on trust. Trust in an animal that refused to abandon them. Each bark was a beacon, each pause a reminder that they weren't alone. But even as hope flickered, the storm was far from finished. Somewhere ahead, Daniels could feel it. The night had one last trial waiting. Daniels stumbled, knees buckling under the grandmother's weight. His boots slipped on the ice, nearly sending all 3 of them crashing into the snow. He caught himself at the last second, chest heaving, vision blurred from the sting of frozen wind. The old woman's head lolled against his shoulder. He pressed his ear close. Her breaths were shallow, fading. "No, no, stay with me," he muttered, tightening his grip, though his arms felt like they were made of lead. The little girl clutched at his side, sobbing into the fabric of his coat. "Don't let her go, please." The words hit harder than the storm. His legs screamed to stop, to collapse and surrender to the white void swallowing them whole. That's when the shepherd reappeared, darting back with fierce urgency. It barked furiously, circling them, then shoved its head against Daniel's leg, nudging, pushing, refusing to let him give in. Daniel's dropped to one knee, the snow searing his skin even through the uniform. For a terrifying heartbeat, he considered it, just staying there, letting exhaustion take him. Then, through the wall of white, something flickered. A faint glow. Headlights. Barely visible, but there. Daniels clenched his teeth, forcing himself upright again. The storm hadn't beaten them yet. Not while that light still burned. The glow grew brighter until it cut clean through the storm, red and blue lights, flashing in the whiteout like a lifeline. Daniels nearly collapsed at the sight, his chest shaking with relief. Moments later, a second patrol car slid into view, tires grinding against the ice. Doors flew open, and shapes rushed toward him, bundled in heavy coats, their shouts barely audible over the roar of the blizzard. Daniels staggered forward, clutching the little girl with one arm, the grandmother's frail weight still dragging him down. His knees finally buckled. He dropped to the snow, shielding the girl with his body as he gasped for air. Strong hands pulled at him, voices breaking through. "We've got her. Get the stretcher." The medics lifted the grandmother quickly, wrapping heated blankets around her fragile frame, oxygen mask already in place. The girl was pried gently from Daniel's arms, bundled tight, carried swiftly to the waiting ambulance. Daniel slumped onto the icy ground, lungs burning, body trembling with exhaustion. He tilted his head back, snowflakes melting on his lashes. They had made it. Against everything, they had made it. Beside him, the shepherd stood tall, chest heaving, watching as if making sure the transfer was done right. Even when Daniels reached out a shaking hand, the dog didn't move. It wasn't leaving. Not yet. The hospital room was quiet except for the steady rhythm of machines. The grandmother lay wrapped in warmth, color slowly returning to her face. The little girl sat by her bedside, clutching a cup of cocoa with both hands. Daniels leaned against the doorway, exhaustion still clinging to his bones, but relief finally loosening his chest. The shepherd rested near the foot of the bed, eyes half closed, as if it had stood guard long enough. The girl glanced toward the dog, her voice soft but certain. "That's Max. Grandpa's dog." Daniels frowned. "Your dog?" She nodded. "He ran away after Grandpa's funeral. We looked everywhere. Mom said maybe he couldn't handle losing him." Her eyes shimmered as she reached a hand toward the shepherd. "But he came back for us." Daniels felt a chill that had nothing to do with the storm. The family had buried the grandfather months ago. No one had seen the dog since. And yet, on the coldest night of the year, when hope was nearly gone, Max had reappeared and led them all to safety. The room fell silent, the weight of it pressing deep. A tear slipped down the officer's face before he could stop it. Because sometimes, miracles don't come with wings. Sometimes, angels have 4 legs. Subscribe for more stories like this.